Hello, this is Gio. Hey, look what I have here. I have a Nintendo 64 console. And unfortunately, this one does not work. It doesn't actually display anything on a monitor. No sound, no video. The power does go on, but it doesn't display anything. I was really hoping to fix this unit today, but alas, I just was not able to diagnose or fix the problem. But this video will show you some of the methods and techniques I did to try to diagnose the issue. It'll also show you how I totally disassembled this unit all the way down to the motherboard and the heat shields, etc., and tried to do some testing of some voltages, look for corrosion. I did some resoldering, etc., but it just didn't work at the end. But I will show you also how to reassemble it all the way up to its final product, as you see here. And even though I wasn't able to fix this unit, I do hope you will get something out of this video. So let's get started. Okay, so we do have it plugged in, the power pack's in, the AV cable is in, it's connected to the TV. I believe this is input 2, and everything's good. Let's turn on the TV just to test it out. We'll put on some Superman here, stick it in, and turn on the power. And as you can see, the power light does go on, but there's absolutely no video. So no video in a Nintendo 64 could be a number of things. You could have just bad traces, bad connections all over the place. But I'm hoping that it's something simple. And so we'll kind of go step by step how I'm going to kind of look through this and see if I can fix this video signal. So I went ahead and changed the display here for a blue screen instead of black, just to make sure that we are getting a video signal in. So the first thing I'm going to do is just to verify that this AV cable here, which is right here, that connects right in back, and which is plugged into the side of the TV here. So I do have a spare AV cable for Nintendo's. Let's see, it could just be the cable. So let's just pull the cable and replug this thing in using a cable I know that works. Okay, everything's plugged in, and then we'll just power it up. And nothing. So we're not getting any signal at all. Okay, so it's probably not the cable. Okay, maybe it's the game cartridge itself. So we'll go ahead and wiggle this thing in. I'm not even getting a signal when I hit the reset button. So let's just kind of reseat this thing. Nothing. Let's try a different game. Now, both these games I know work. Try to get it contact. Still power. And nothing at all. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is see if I am actually getting good power. Now, I do have a spare power cord here for the Nintendo 64, and I have swapped them out and it's still not working. But if you don't have a spare power pack here, you can actually test the voltage coming in. And here's the plug end here, but right here it actually lists what all the pins are for. The left two and the center bottom one are ground ones. The next two on the top here are 3.3 volts, and this one here is supposed to be about 12 volts. So let's go ahead and test to make sure we're getting the voltage. These pins are really small, so my normal probes don't fit into them, so I had to kind of do some bootleg wiring here. So let's go ahead, let's see if we can see this. We'll go ahead and put, let's see, one in ground. Okay, like that. And then let's test the top two, 3.5 volts. Okay, 3.4, that's close enough. 3.4 again, close enough, and let's try this 12 volt. Okay, this one's getting closer to, it looks like 11 volts, But that's close enough. I understand that when the pack is out of the game, you usually get slightly lower, but I think this is okay. So I think this power is at least providing enough power to the console. So the next thing that commonly affects the video is the memory expansion pack slot here. So open up this little cover here, and okay, so this actually has a jumper pack in it. That came originally with all Nintendo 64s, and so you could expand the memory of your machine by removing this jumper pack and inserting a memory expansion pack. But in this case, it's just the jumper pack. And to take it out, I'm just using a little plastic prier. You can also use a screwdriver if you want, but just be careful. The power is off, and we'll just see if we can pop this up just like that. And this doesn't look like it's ever been taken out because the sticker is still on it. Here, let's try to salvage the sticker a little bit. So we'll save the sticker. Should use a little different prier here. Try to get in here and pop this thing up like that. And so this just goes in and out. And so what I want to do is just to make sure that these contacts are clean. I'll use a little isopropyl alcohol on a Q-tip here and just make sure that all these contacts are clean here. And then we'll just kind of try to reseat this thing in there nicely. So I'll just do that once. And twice. Make sure it gets seated in there. Okay, so let's test it out again. So we go ahead and turn this on. Power. Wiggle this thing around. Okay, still nothing. Okay, so I do have a spare jumper pack here that I know that works. So maybe it is a bad jumper pack. So let's go ahead and remove this jumper pack here and replace it with one that I know works. And let's see if that works. And still nothing. Okay. Okay, so we don't have any choice. We have to open her up and see if we can see any issues from the inside. So let's go ahead and start with just removing the power. Well, let's unplug it first. Remove the power, remove the AV cable, and remove the jumper pack. Okay, so we did switch tables just so I can see a little bit better. I have some light over here. So we're going to open up this case, and to open up the case, again, remove the jumper pack or the memory pack, and you're just going to turn it upside down, and you're going to see 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you will need a specialty game bit, little bit to remove these, and this is a 4.5 millimeter game bit, if you can kind of see how it's shaped like that. And so you can get those just online pretty cheaply. And so let's just start by removing these screws. Okay, 6 screws. And you may have noticed the feet might have fallen off, but you could just remove the feet, the 2 front feet, just from there after you remove the screws. And then we're just gonna flip over the game here and then just carefully kind of remove the top, and it should just come off nice and easy. Okay, so even with the top off, it's kind of hard to see anything. You really need to start removing other components, some of these heat shieldings, etc. There are a lot of screws and they're not all the same size, so I recommend getting a little tray which you can organize your screw removal. And so I'll put this on the side there, and the rest of them should all be Phillips screws. You don't need any more game bits, but the first thing is just to remove basically 14 screws. So there's 10 of these screws, there's 2 of these screws, and then there's 2 darker screws. So just make sure you don't lose any of these and know where they go at the end. There you go, all 14 are gone. Then you want to remove 2 screws for the jumper pack here, or the expansion pack, and so we'll remove those. These are longer screws. And then there'll be 1 screw right of this little LED right here, if you can see that right here, that needs to be removed as well. And with that removed, you should be able to get this whole thing out. Well, you could get this out first, so this gets removed. And then you should be able to lift up this entire plate here. And this little plate can actually come off by itself, so just make sure you don't lose that. Okay, with those removed, you have 7 more screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to remove, so we can remove this board. And the 2 on top are slightly longer than the others. With those removed, you should be able to take off this upper plate right here, little heat shield. Just like that. And then we're just down 4 more screws. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that will get the board out of here. And then the whole board should just slip right out. Now this top part will kind of slip on out like that. You can just leave that there if you want. And if you flip it over, there's just this little shield here that also comes off, just loosely. Put that aside. So looking carefully over this board, nothing really jumps out at me. I don't see any corrosion. I don't see any traces that seem like they have issues. I did do a continuity test on these pins. If you kind of zoom into the, you can kind of see that there's some pins in here on both sides, so on this side as well for the AV cable, and those are in continuity with these pins right here, so those work out. And they also did continuity tests for these the power plug here, the grounds, the 3.3 volts, the 12 volts. Those are in continuity with these pins along with these pins over here, so at least the board is getting the power and the signals, which they should. Okay, so next we're going to just test out some of the voltages, making sure that the voltages are getting where they're supposed to be. Again, the power supply is up here. It has 12 volts and 3.3 volts. Those go down to the switch, and when the switch is up, it just sends off the 12 volts and the 3.5 volts to other places. So one place, the main place, it goes to this little regulator chip here, which is right there. And so this little regulator here has a 12 volt leg, and that regulates things down to 5 volts. So if we are getting 12 volts there, hopefully this thing is working. Let me just back up here, show you my little multimeter, and then it's on voltage. This is the grounding rail here, so we'll touch the ground, and then we'll touch the 12 volt leg. And there you go, 11.48, close enough. And so the other leg should be 5 volts. And sure enough, so this little regulator is working fine. So the 3.5 volts goes from the switch to this little regulator here, which one of the legs turns the 3.5 volts into 2.56 volts. And that goes to a little tiny resistor. On the other side of the resistor, it has a 1.92 volt amount. And so if we read on either leg of that resistor, we should get those two values. It's actually this R25. So one leg should be that 2 volt or 2.5 volts. The other leg should be closer to 2 volts. Okay, so I hope you can see this. I'm just gonna, let's see, the multimeter is there. I need some magnifying to help hitting the ground, and then on one leg of this, and we're getting a 2.54. So that's that leg, and then the other one should be closer to 2. And it's 1.9 if I can actually hold it steady. 1.908. So the power into the board is correct. So we have the 12 volts, we have the 5 volts, we have 2.5 volts, and also the 2 volts. Here I'm just checking to see if these pins here for the jumper all have continuity, and it's just a matter of going down one pin at a time and making sure that it's seeing continuity on the other side with these little pins right here. There is a grounding piece of metal here. Just be careful. You have to be really careful just to touch one pin at a time. But I checked all these and they are all in continuity, these contacts down here. Okay, so I haven't really been able to find any flaws this board. I've checked a lot of the connections. Everything seems to be connected. The continuities look good. The soldering looks really good. I haven't noticed any cracks. Everything seems to be connected. I did take off the game port connector here, and you do that just by lifting this up, just straight out, kind of wiggle it. And I did clean all these connections and these pins here, which is commonly a problem. Sometimes they get gunked up. In this case, I put it back and it didn't seem to improve anything. One thing about putting these back, you'll notice that there is an arrow right here and there's an arrow right here. And you generally want to align, well, you do want to align those arrows because you could offset these connectors, and so you just push it straight down. So I really haven't seen much issue. So I think next I'm going to take these heat sinks off of these chips. This is the CPU, this is like their reality coprocessor, and then there's two DRAMs underneath here. And to remove that, there's just kind of like a heat sink pad underneath them. You just kind of take them and rotate them slightly. You do want to make note of the orientation, since the screws do re-screw back into these, and so you don't want to reinstall them incorrectly. So make note of how they're oriented, and you just kind of rotate them slowly, just like that, until they pop off. And here you can see the little heat sink. Try not to get that dirty. But so that's like that. And so I'm just gonna flip this so they're all rotated correctly. And you just want to do it. Here's the other one. And this is for the two RAM chips there. Now with some isopropyl alcohol, I'm just gonna kind of clean off these a little bit. Try to clean off the pins and take a look at these pins as closely as I can. I've taken a look at all these pins. They all generally look good, but since I'm not really finding a solution here, it could be a bad IC chip. But I think I'm going to reflow all these pins, and to do that, I'm just going to put some flux all along here, and with some solder on my tip here. Try to reflow this entire thing here. And that looks good, so I'll do that for the rest of them as well. Okay, so I tried to reboot it again, and sure enough, I was just getting just a blank screen with no input. So apparently I can't seem to fix this particular machine. So we might as well reverse the process, put it back together, and maybe in the future I could figure out what's wrong with the machine. So just to start with, we will put back the little the heat sinks. Make sure that you have the little pads there and try to center them as best you can. And then just press down just a little bit. Again, the screws go into these, so you want to make sure that they're positioned properly. And then there's this back plate that we have to put on. And that goes in just like this. And fits in with these little holes here. So flip that, and you put the whole thing here into the bottom case. Now don't forget about this little plastic part right there that goes, it fits just like that. This top goes on these little screws here, so it fits in just like that. And work it in just so it sits just flush. And then we had these 4 screws up on top, 1, 2, 3, 4, that go right here. Okay, and then with those 4 screws in, you want to put this upper plate on and just line them up with the holes. Put them down carefully. And hopefully these will line up with those heat sinks. Might need to adjust them just slightly. It looks like it works. So there's 7 screws. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so next there's these heat shields here. Don't forget this little piece right here that goes just like on top like that. And it all kind of fits in here. Let's see, put that second, I guess. Like that, put this one in. Like that, and then there is another little piece right here that goes in right there. There's 1 screw there that fits with this screw. Just like that. And then 2 longer screws that go one right here and one right there. And then there's this one larger piece that fits underneath this right here. And so we just fit that in like that. Align the holes. And there you go. Now there's a lot of screws here, but remember there's 3 different kinds. The first ones are these darker ones like 1, 2 that go right there. And then there's these, which have a little bit of a washer to them, and those go 1, 2. And then all the rest, let's see, 6, 7, 8, 10, they're all the same screw, and they look like this. And then with all those screws back in, it's just a matter of putting the top case back on. Let's see, make sure that there's the on-off switch. Make sure that that's in the correct position. There we go. There we go. Flip it over. And then remember, we're looking for the specialty game bit to replace these screws. But before we do that, don't forget about the feet. There's 2 feet, 1, 2. Okay, so they're all in. You flip them over. Don't forget about the jumper pack. Stick that in. That works. The cover. And it's all back together again. I really was hoping that this video would come out better with an actual fix of this machine, but sometimes when you start a repair, it doesn't always go your way and you just can't get it fixed. But at least today you saw me deassembling this unit all the way and reassembling it, and some of the techniques I used to kind of try to diagnose what was going on. So in a lot of cases, just playing with the jumper pack or the memory pack or the units, try to
desolder, unsolder, etc. Just looking for corrosion, just looking for true voltage, etc. Sometimes it's the power cord, sometimes it's the AV cable that you can easily replace. But sometimes, like this machine, there's a little bit more complications involved and you just can't get it fixed. But I do hope this video helped you out, and if it did, please hit that like button at the bottom of the screen and even consider subscribing to my channel. I have many more videos to come, hopefully next time with a fix.